Using Audacity for audio recordings. My name is Marco Torresi, and this is a tutorial as an introduction to the basics of how to create and edit your own narrated recordings for use with tutorials or your audio podcasts. The contents of this tutorial will be that we describe a little bit about Audacity, then I'll go through some microphone tips. Then we go through recording audio from your microphone, as well as the post-production and editing audio of the recordings. Then we'll finish off with some final points, and we do have some handy shortcuts as well, and they will be available for you as an appendix. About Audacity. Well, Audacity is an easy-to-use open source editing software that's for audio files. It's available on Windows, Mac, and Linux. You can download it, and it's for free. The links are here on this slide. There is also an online manual. There are various tutorials, and the link is there as well. Just a quick point on the MP3s. If you do want to export your audio to MP3 file formats, you will need to do just a little bit of downloading extra. There's a small file to download from the link in that slide there, which you just have to let Audacity know where that file is on your computer, and then it will be able to complete that export. Okay, so we'll move right along. Microphone tips. Well, this is obviously a very varied subject. This is the sort of thing that everyone has their own personal opinion. If you're doing podcasts and tutorials directly on your computer, I'd recommend it's great to record directly on your computer, preferably with a microphone that has a USB connection support. That'll be the simplest and easiest solution for you. Avoid using the built-in microphones on your laptop. They're usually probably the lowest quality you can find. If you do have headphones already with a microphone, or at least a decent webcam with microphone, that is a good start. You can always try that first. If you want to go ahead and purchase a new microphone, well, it really depends on your budget. They can be quite cheap to quite expensive. Generally between $75 US to about $200, you should get something fairly decent that you can connect to your computer. If instead you're looking for something that's more portable, that you want to record things in the field, outdoors, or interview scenarios without a computer, and to record to an SD card, then many professionals tend to use products like Zoom and Tascam portable recorders. These can also handle multiple microphones at the same time, different channels. So there's a link here for some of these products if you're interested to look at that. And also, regarding portable recorders, you can also connect them directly to your computer. That makes them dual purpose. So you use it in the field, but you can also connect it directly to your computer, and they do come with their own microphones. Okay. Recording audio from your microphone. Well, once you've started Audacity on your computer, there'll be a toolbar on the top, of course. Now, you'll be able to select your microphone from the toolbar. In this example, you'll see that I've chosen the microphone H6. Your computer may show your webcam or another microphone. You find the one that works, that is actually connected and working on your computer. To test your microphone levels, it's a good idea to speak at your desired volume and place the microphone. Place the microphone reasonably close to you and register the levels by clicking on the recording meter toolbar. The average levels should be leveling around -24 to -18. That range. That's where it should be leveling frequently. Okay, so as you can see, I've got here an image of what it's like when you need to go and click onto that toolbar. You click on it, and then all of a sudden you'll see it start to register. And this is an example of what it should look like in that range. But if you're starting to see yellow and orange, then that would be too loud, and you really do need to either put the microphone further away or reduce the level on your microphone directly. And that could be a manual control, or that could be a software control on your computer. Okay. Another point to remember is once you start to record or you're ready to record, it's really basic. Just hit the record button. There it is there. Nice and simple. Once you've completed your test recording, let's say, you can pause at any time, or you can even stop it. And they're the buttons. Editing audio recordings. Once you have done your first recording, you will need to become familiar with the layout and functions, and it's easier than you think. Let's look at some of the tips below. First of all, this handy toolbar shows you the play, the pause, the stop button. You've even got to go to the end points, the start, the end, and the record. Then there is this really handy select tool. That's great, and it's also got its own shortcut key of F1 on your keyboard. Now you would select that where you want to highlight a specific point in time or a range. You can block out a range of time where you may want to do things like drag it around or delete it, and it's really, really handy. Now you can also mute any particular track, and you can mute just this track, or you can mute the other tracks by using the solo function. Then you can also rename the track. Now this is really helpful. Sometimes you've got different tracks of different inputs, or different verses, or different parts of your podcast, and you want to be able to label them. You can go ahead and do that right there. And these are the tracks. In this particular case, it's one track split into left and right for your stereo. Also, if you want to record more audio after that first recording, you can either append it after the existing track, and that's what I usually do. And in this case, it has its own Shift and R as the shortcut key. Or you can create a new track completely by just pressing the R or the record button. And the append one is really useful. The reason is, if you're just recording with the simple record button, it will tend to go back to the start of the recording. And as it starts to record, it actually plays any other tracks in that time frame. And that's a problem, because then you'll hear yourself and you're trying to talk over yourself at the same time. Whereas if you append, it's much easier. It just goes to the end of the channel and starts recording from there. And that makes it a lot easier to not have to worry about muting every time. Another useful tool is the time shift tool. Its shortcut key is F5. Now this is great to move around segments in a track along the timeline, either backwards or forwards in time, or just to give you that perfect timing. You can even drag a segment and shift it to another track if you want. So I can go from one track here. I had a track here previously in the earlier slide, and I dragged it up to here. And you can do vice versa. You can move these and shuffle them around anywhere you want. You need to hit that F5 key or this time shift tool to do that. When you want to go back to select again, you just push F1 for the select tool. And that way you can go between the tools very quickly on the keyboard. You may want to resize the track height, and that's really useful. What you do is you go in between the tracks, and you can just wait for, as you hover over the mouse, it'll change the icon, and then you grab it and you can actually bring it up or down and stretch the height of these tracks. Really easy to do. Another handy hint is I use Control F just to quickly align all of the window, and all these channels will just automatically distribute themselves. That's really handy. Another thing to do is you're going to find sometimes maybe you're too far from the microphone, or the volume is a little bit too low, and you can overcome it just by using the plus and the minus in this little tool here. This slider, you bring it up maybe just a few points and then play it back, see if your voice is back to normal, to that level that you need. Especially this can happen when you've got multiple recordings on the same track or various tracks, and you need to match the volume across all of those different tracks. So it's very, very useful. Another thing you can do, you can actually minimize any particular track and shrink it. So in this particular case, I've shrunk this one here. You click on this button and it will shrink to something like that size. It hides the track, makes it very, very skinny. It's really handy. Another thing, you can actually delete a full track. Let's just say you've moved some audios around, like I've done here, some segments, and I've got nothing in this track. I can just easily delete it by clicking on the X. Very simple. Now, sometimes it's hard to see the audio spectrum, so you have two types of zoom. One type of zoom will be the height of the spectrum, and that's easy to do. You just click on this little bar here. You left click to zoom in and right click to zoom out. Really simple. And you'll adjust that throughout your recording when you're editing. You'll never keep it at one fixed point, through my experience. Then sometimes you want to actually zoom in, not just on the height, but you need to zoom in on the time. So rather than seeing 20 seconds of recording, you want to see just maybe 1 or 2 seconds of recording and get in between words or phrases. To do that, it's really simple. Hold the control key and using your mouse, go over the specific area and then use your scroll wheel on the mouse to zoom in and zoom out. That's a super useful tool, especially when you need to get very, very specific in between phrases and words, like I said. Okay, now there are just a few more tools that I like to use. The ones that I've mentioned are the most basic and the most common, but in every recording there are a few other things you'll be doing very frequently as well. So I quickly describe them on this slide. The first one is silence audio. The shortcut key is Control L. What this will do is you may have a period inside the recording where there's some background noise or some humming, even some breathing, and it's easy to remove. The very easiest way to do it would be to select that section and then hit Control L, and it will make the whole that whole segment, it will turn it into 0 value for sound. So it'll just mute it completely, and that's really simple to do, and you might do that through various parts of the same recording. Very easy. Sometimes you'll want to also clip and create boundaries. Basically, you're splitting a track, so you may want to do that when you've made some mistakes and you want to insert some audio to come into and replace something you'd recorded previously, or in between segments. You need to learn to split that track and make it into 2 so that you can fit something else in. And that's really easy to do. You just put your cursor there, you hit Control I, and it will split it for you. Sometimes you've also split something, but you want to join it back, and that's easy to do as well. That's Control J. So again, you just highlight the area where there's a split. You would select it with the mouse, and then Control J, and voila, it's joined again. And then the last 2 tips I have for you today, one will be Control U. I use this a lot. This mutes all the tracks. That way you just know that if you need to mute all the tracks quickly, that's a simple way to do it. And if you want to unmute them and make them all audible again, Control Shift and U. Really simple. Okay, well, I hope you've learned a lot. We'll go to a quick summary here. Audacity does have some very simple but very powerful tools, and you can easily record, cut, change and clean your audio to ensure great audio quality and perfect timing for your tutorial, for your podcast, and for any other purpose you want to use it for. Now, as you become more familiar with this program, you will discover more tools and you'll learn to apply them, and that's great. It's okay to start slow with small projects and then build them up as your skills get better. Okay, well, thank you for joining us, and I hope you've learned something from this tutorial. And don't forget, if you've got any further questions, something you want to ask or some comments, feel free to write in the comment section below, and good luck on Audacity.